Let the interview begin.
Hello, everyone to the Flow of Nerds podcast. Today I'm here with Kevin Fagan, known for his comic strip. Hi, Kevin. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, you're very welcome. So I wanted to ask, obviously, your comic strip behind you is what you created. So how did you come across getting into that?
I started drawing cartoons in college. I had a friend of mine whose sister was the editor of the school paper at our local community college. She was looking for a cartoonist. My friend knew that I like to draw for fun.
Okay, cool.
And he recommended me for the job. I had no idea that I could do this or not. And I certainly didn't think I could do it for every issue. I didn't think I'd have that many ideas. But I submitted my cartoons. They liked them. They started running them on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
They became very popular in the college, two-year college. I then transferred up to Sacramento State in California.
Oh, nice.
Showed my work to their school newspaper. They liked it. They started running me twice a week. And the local newspaper in town, one of the local newspapers, the Sacramento Union, asked if they could run my strips on a freelance basis, which I said absolutely. One thing just kind of led to another. I wrote a letter to Charles M. Schultz when I was in college at Sacramento State. He lived a couple hours away in Santa Rosa, California.
Yeah.
And I explained what I did and here's my work and what do you think of it? And he sent me back a letter and he said, I hesitate to comment on art which is sent to me because it's not me you have to impress, it's an editor somewhere.
Yeah.
And with that letter, he sent a Xeroxed sheet of newspaper syndicates. Syndicates are the middleman for a newspaper cartoonist.
Okay.
We don't go individually to each newspaper, but the syndicate salesmen do. So a cartoonist has to be syndicated to get into a lot of newspapers.
Right.
Anyway, on that list was the address of United Feature Syndicate, which just happened to be the largest syndicate at the time.
Wow.
And the syndicate that Schultz was with as well. So I sent some samples of my work off to them. At the time I was drawing single panel cartoons, one picture with a caption underneath.
Yeah.
That's what I sent them. And I sent them about 30 cartoons and I didn't hear anything from them for a couple of months.
Okay.
So I sent them 30 more strips or 30 more cartoons. Didn't hear anything from them.
Wow.
So I sent them 30 more cartoons and I got a letter from the secretary of the syndicate president saying, we'd like you to try this cartoon as a strip instead of a single panel. We'd like you to do a strip. Now, a strip and a single panel are a totally different mindset. It's kind of hard to go from one to the other because there's pacing involved and all of that I wasn't really used to. But I did my best. I sent them off 30 strips. And so finally, 9 months after my first submission to the syndicate, they called and said, our vice president is flying out, meet him at the airport in Sacramento, and you'll sign your contract and we're in business. And so I was 21 years old and that's how it started.
Wow, that's really cool to hear.
That was 1979. So that was 42 years ago and I've been drawing it every day ever since.
And is it the same characters you focus on?
Same characters. In a comic strip, you can always introduce new characters.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be the same all the time. But yeah, it's basically the Drabble family. My comic strip is called Drabble, Drabble. So it's a family and their last name is Drabble. Norman Drabble is the teenage college student in the family. He was based on me when I was a college student, just a complete nerd.
Okay.
Could get nowhere with the girls and all of that. Norman's a lot. I didn't realize it at the time because I hadn't watched any of his movies, but the great silent film comedian Buster Keaton, I don't know if you've seen him, but anyway, Norman Drabble's a lot like him in that he, a lot of physical comedy. He's totally bewildered all the time, kind of a blank look on his face, has no idea what's going on, but always manages to work his way out of predicament. That's Norman Drabble. And over the years, I actually became more like the father in the strip, Ralph Drabble.
Okay.
Ralph, the dad, he was actually the first mall cop. And at the time, that he became a mall cop, I had no idea what to call him. You know, one of these security guards at the mall.
Yeah.
Because there was no term for it. And, you know, mall security officer, retail outlet, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't think of a name, and I came up with mall cop, and that stuck. And I don't know if I was the first one to ever coin that phrase or not, but.
Wow.
So for, you know, 15 or 20 years in the comic strip, beginning in the early to mid 80s, Ralph Drabble was a mall cop, and that was kind of his main identity.
Nice. Awesome.
So, anyway.
Yeah. How do you think, because obviously you've clearly been doing this for a long time with the same family, how do you keep coming up with new ideas and scenarios and just keeping it fresh?
Yeah, that's the challenge for every cartoonist. It's no great accomplishment to come up with, you know, a couple of weeks worth of material, but day in and day out, and of course some are funnier than others. That's just kind of the way it goes.
Yeah, of course.
But it becomes, for the comic strip artist, it becomes a way of life. You know, I don't have any gag writers other than, you know, sometimes my wife and kids and now grandkids will say something that's really funny, and I'll put that in the strip. But so all the writing and drawing I do by myself. It becomes a way of life. I walk around all day long with one of these literal old-fashioned spiral notebooks. And all day long, I'm just, you know, jotting down little ideas, scribbling notes, and I come back to them later and see if I can turn any of them into a comic strip. And cool. It's just what I do all day long. So I get up, I read the paper, do the crossword puzzles. I still read a paper. Do the crossword puzzles, and then I sit with my notebook and start doodling.
Oh, nice.
So I draw my characters doing different things in different situations, and
awesome.
One thing leads to another. And sometimes ideas come out of the blue. Yesterday I took a walk, and all throughout the walk, ideas kept coming to mind. So I'd get out my phone and kind of type it into my phone. Yeah. I came home with 3 strips to draw yesterday.
Wow, nice.
I got lucky. That's a rarity, but sometimes it happens that way. And sometimes you just have to sit down cold-bloodedly with a blank sheet of paper.
Yeah, just keep thinking and
make something happen. Yeah, keep brainstorming. And like I said, you can always bring a new character into the strip too. You know, if things seem kind of stale or you want a different direction or whatever.
Yeah, you mix it up a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you see like an end point for the Drabble series, or is it something you just want to just keep doing and doing until you get bored of it?
Yeah, I'll keep doing it as long as there are newspapers around that can run it. It's also on the internet. It's on my syndicate's website at gocomics.com/Drabble.
Oh, cool.
You can actually click on the little calendar icon and go back and see every strip over the last 20, 25 years, something like that. So even if the newspapers go out of business, I guess there's still a place for me, although newspapers, you know, pay more than the internet does at the time being.
Yes,
unless
definitely.
we can figure out a new angle for it. So I'd like to keep doing it for as long as I can. I don't really have a date or an age that I'd like to retire. I enjoy doing it. It kind of keeps my mind busy and active and all of that. So
awesome.
We'll see.
That's really cool. So when you were first starting out, what was the idea behind the Drabble family?
They were actually the family was a bit like the Simpsons, even though we had a 10-year head start. The same kind of, Ralph Drabble is very similar to Homer Simpson. And I think the reason for that is Matt Groening, the creator of The Simpsons, and I are about the same age, and we kind of grew up in the same part of the country and had many of the same influences, like on television, like the Honeymooners and the Flintstones and All in the Family, and some of the great old shows where, the dad's a little outrageous. And so that's kind of the way that my character was.
Nice.
So it's not as edgy as The Simpsons. My instructions when I signed my first syndicate contract was always keep in mind that readers are reading this over, their morning cup of coffee or whatever, and they're not in the mood for anything edgy or, rude or anything like that. And that's even a challenge in and of itself, because it's a lot easier to be funny if you don't have any boundaries or anything like that. But I actually kind of like the boundaries, because it does make you have to be a little funnier. You got to be
think more,
be outrageous in a different way.
Yeah, I totally get that. Behind you, you've got like 6. You think you got more over there? Are these some of your favorite ones? These strips?
I've actually got 25 on this wall. I don't know if you can. See.
Wow.
On my 25th anniversary of the strip, my wife got one strip from each of my first 25 years, unbeknownst to me, and had put them in a little plastic frame and put them all on this wall in our home. This isn't my studio. It's kind of a room that we like to hang out in. So that's what this is. It's not that I like to admire my strips. It was a gift to me. It is kind of fun to look at the first strip and see the progression in the artwork to the more recent, but I don't have enough walls to keep going past 25 years.
How many strips, if you can remember, how many strips have you made altogether?
Well, it's I've for 42 years, so it's 42 times 365, whatever that is.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, and I've only had 2 brief interruptions. One in 1983 when my mother passed away, and my syndicate said, "Hey, take a week off." So they ran repeats for 6 installments of Drabble. And then in 2008, I ended up in the hospital for a week. So I took another 6. So it's 365 times 42, whatever that is, minus
12.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how many strips I've done.
That is a lot of ideas.
I know. I got them all in my garage, and I know how many it is. Yeah.
Wow. So is your strip one of those, like The Simpsons, do you age your characters, or do they stay the same age?
Nope. If anything, sometimes some of the characters have gotten younger. I had, I introduced a new character when our daughter was born, now 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was getting all of these ideas for having a baby in the strip. I thought the Drabbles need to have a baby, but I pictured mom and dad as being a little too old for that. So in the months leading up to it, I started making little subtle references to they're not as old as they look. And I started changing their appearance ever so slightly.
Right.
And it still, I think, took people by surprise when it happened. But anyway, so the baby girl Penny was introduced into the strip. For years, the mom in the strip, she's called Honey Bunch by her husband.
Okay.
And that's the name most people know her by, because somebody in the strip's either calling her mom or Honey Bunch. Honey Bunch looked a lot like June Cleaver. I don't know if you've ever seen the old Leave It to Beaver episodes on television. A great American show from the 50s, very funny. But the mom in the strip always wore an apron, always had a string of pearls around her neck.
Right.
And as an homage to Mrs. Cleaver in that old 50s television show, Honey Bunch always had an apron and always had a string of pearls. Well, in this day and age, I was getting a lot of comments about that, like, doesn't she have a life? And, this is kind of old fashioned and this and that. And so I kind of updated her recently. I got rid of the apron, even though I thought it was funny. And the only reason she was wearing an apron literally everywhere she went was just because of this TV show back in the 50s. But nobody has seen that. Young people haven't seen that TV show. So the reference was kind of gone. So every once in a while, they go through a bit of an update. But by and large, the characters have not aged since 1979.
Wow. I mean, that's probably better because it means you can have endless ideas and you can end it whenever you want, can't it? Aren't you? So it's like Simpsons, obviously.
Yeah.
It's been going, 32 years now?
Yeah, 2 ways to look at it. The Peanuts characters never aged either. Charlie Brown and Linus and Lucy, they always stayed in childhood for 50 years. There was a great comic strip called For Better or For Worse, which ended its run about 15 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
But in that comic strip, the characters did age, and the young couple with their children, the kids grew up, the couple got older. And it's kind of neat because it provides all sorts of different material for various stages of life. So there's something to be said for doing that. I'm always kind of afraid I'd take them in a wrong direction. I don't want to mess with a good thing,
Yeah, I
I've
totally
gone
get
too
that.
far with it and it's working.
Yeah.
But I've often tinkered with the idea of Norman, the college nerd. What if he got married? What if he had kids? What kind of a dad would he be? And all of
Yeah.
that. And especially now that we have young grandkids, I keep thinking there's all sorts of grandparent strips that are really I could do. So
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
one day I will do that. But for the time being, they're still roughly the age they were when the strip started.
Oh, nice. That's cool. So I want to ask, so do you do anything else outside of this? Or is this your
No,
main focus?
yeah, no, it's a full-time job, obviously.
Yeah.
We have, we've done a lot of several Drabble books over the years. I've written a musical play with
Oh, wow.
the jazz composer David Benoit. We've written a bunch of songs, and we have a musical version of Drabble, which kind of
Oh, nice.
hasn't been performed anywhere yet. COVID kind of knocked us for a loop. We had
Right, yeah.
interest and some producers who were interested in it, and we haven't been able to do anything for a year. So that might one day get off the ground. But that's been kind of fun to write songs and write for the stage.
Nice.
But other than that, my work is all Drabble oriented.
That's the best thing, though. At least you can just solely put everything into this one project that you care so much about. It's the best thing. Yeah.
Like I said, it becomes a way of life. So.
Yeah, exactly. One last thing. So what's the dream for you? Obviously, I know you said you're quite old now. You don't know when to end the thing, but what's the end goal? Where would you like to see Drabble?
Oh, I think it would be fun to see it expand into television.
Oh, nice.
Or a stage play or whatever. And there's been a lot of several television projects over the years. Ron Howard, back in the 80s, wanted to turn Drabble into a live action sitcom.
Oh, really?
And
Wow.
it went quite a ways with one of the major networks, but in the end, they decided they wanted to kind of go away from the family oriented sitcom at that time.
Right. Okay.
So that never got off the ground. Bill Melendez, who animated all of the Peanuts specials on television, wanted to animate Drabble and actually animated, several minutes of it of test animation, and that never quite got off the ground either. But I still think with all of the material that we've done that there are probably things we can do. I'm not really a salesman, so I'm not setting up a lot of meetings and stuff. I'm kind of trying to come up with my next comic strip. So I haven't really been actively trying to make anything happen. But I would love to see something like that happen, especially, as the newspaper business wanes a little bit. It would be kind of fun to branch out and keep it going.
Yeah, of course.
I have hope and actually somewhat of an expectation that will happen.
Nice.
But we'll see.
Awesome. That'd be really cool to see your strip come to life one day.
It would be. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, Kevin, for today. It's been great talking to you.
Same here. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, no worries. Hope you have a good day and take care.
All right. Thank you. You too.
All the best.